Jordan Peterson begins this next movement of Rule 1 with a story so wholesome it might have been lifted from a 1950s Canadian civics reader. 10-year-old Jordan, bright spring mornings, a tiny wagon-shaped birdhouse designed with his father, pure domestic pastoral. You can practically hear the CBC radio in the background. A wren takes up residence, singing his little heart out, and instantly we are ushered into a universe where nature is adorable but grimly purposeful. A pocket-sized Darwinian opera. This, by the way, is a commentary and peer review of pages 2 through 4 of Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. This is Peterson's tactic. Soften the reader with a rural idyll. Then reveal that the idyll is a war zone. The wren, though small and cute, is also merciless, enforcing territorial boundaries with the zeal of a Cold War border guard. The neighbor's rubber boot birdhouse, sabotaged. A rival bird resting on a branch, dive-bombed into submission. Peterson's youthful delight becomes an evolutionary parable, which becomes inevitably a sociological conclusion. Hierarchy is not only natural, but morally instructive. The world is a pecking order, and the sooner you accept your rung, the better. Now, one admires the craftsmanship of this segue. Here is the child Peterson with a cassette recorder, another quaint touch, luring the wren with its own recorded song and discovering that the tiny creature responds like a testosterone-addled prizefighter, enraged by his reflection. It's amusing, particularly touching. But the amusement does not last, because what begins as a demonstration of avian territoriality is soon pressed, like a flower between heavy books, into the service of human social philosophy. Wrens, Peterson notes, are not lobsters, thank God for small mercies. Yet both species, like chickens and most everything else that moves, are obsessed with status. The reference to Thorleif Schjelderup Ebba's early 20th century observations about pecking orders is lightly footnoted here, dutifully scientific, as if to reassure the reader that this is not an allegory but zoological fact. The dominant birds get the first crack at food, the weak and bedraggled wait their turn or starve. Even songbirds, those gentle choristers of spring, exist in a dispersed hierarchy. The strong secure the best territory, the best food, and thus the best mates. The weak suffer and die. Quote, territory matters, Peterson writes, with a solemnity reserved for both military invasions and real estate markets. So far, so zoological. Then comes the pivot, the inevitable Petersonian vault from the branches of the wren to the corridors of human society. Quote, this is equally true of human neighborhoods when bird flu, viruses, and other illnesses sweep across the planet. The poor and stressed always die first. Always. Not often, not statistically more likely, not without intervention. No, always. And then the clincher. The line that rings like a funeral bell across page 4. When the aristocracy catches a cold, the working class dies of pneumonia. This sentence is delivered with proverbial finality as if carved on a Georgian mantelpiece. The tone is fatalistic, almost smug in its poetic bleakness, but the problem is not the bleakness. The problem is the fatalism. Rather than interrogate the mechanisms by which inequality becomes lethal, any of the following: policy, economics, environmental, exposure, healthcare, access. Peterson naturalizes the entire business by lodging it in the genetic memory of wrens. Birds suffer because territory is scarce. Humans suffer because hierarchy is eternal, QED. To call this a logical leap would be to flatter it. It is more of a philosophical canyon jump. Evel Knievel in a lab coat. Peterson uses animal behavior not merely as analogy, but as ontology. The struggle of small woodland birds becomes the template for political reality. Animal mortality becomes human destiny. And inequality, our inequality, is not merely explained, but affirmed, embalmed in an amber of evolution. It is, frankly, barbarity wearing bifocals. For what Peterson neglects entirely is everything that makes humans not birds. Birds cannot legislate working conditions. Birds cannot build public health systems. Birds cannot organize strikes, vote in elections, subsidize housing, or demand regulation of industrial pollutants. Birds do not live in food deserts created by municipal zoning. Birds do not ration insulin. Birds are not subject to the whims of predatory landlords, nor do they experience austerity budgets. To leap from stressed wrens die first to poor humans die first, without acknowledging the immense apparatus of human-made systems, economic, political, historical, is not biology, it is ideology lightly dusted with feathers. And yet, Peterson's argument has a seductive simplicity. I admit it. Nature is hard. Life is hierarchical. Suffering is baked into the system. This is his ontological conservatism. Things are the way they are because the world, in its primordial birdness, cannot be otherwise. Compassion is optional. Reform is hubris. Progress is fantasy. Meaning lies in knowing your place and adjusting your posture accordingly. Wrens policing the branches become a justification for the working class burying its dead. Peterson in this passage shows he is enamored with the intellectual glamour of brutality. For Peterson's worldview is not malicious. He is too earnest for that. But he is strikingly comfortable with suffering, so long as suffering can be said to follow the rules of nature. If the poor die faster, well, so do the low-status barnyard chickens. If stress kills, it kills the weak first. If hierarchy crushes people, that's only the ancient ocean floor logic playing out in the suburbs. The irony, of course, is this. Peterson believes he is delivering an antidote to chaos. The title says so. But what he offers instead is a taxonomy of chaos, organized, explained, and solemnly affirmed. The world is red in tooth, claw, and beak, and the best we can do is imitate the chest-out posture of the victorious rooster. Yet, hierarchy in human life is not a fact of nature. It is a failure of imagination. And if we are to stand up straight, let it be not in acceptance of the wren's mercilessness, but in defiance of it.